Hi everyone. So today I have a pretty interesting little lock here. This is a Kaken KX3. This has 3 separate locking mechanisms, which are all different from each other, and all of them have to be unlocked in order to open the lock. And so I just wanted to talk about them real quick before we go over to the picking section, because I didn't actually talk at all through picking because this lock frankly gave me a lot of trouble, so I was concentrating pretty hard. So you can see on the plug here, there are a whole bunch of holes, and those go with the 3 different locking mechanisms. So you can see in the middle here, there is 3 holes for the top stacks, and I'll just show up close. There is milling in this plug. When I got it open, I thought it was over milling, but my pick is catching in there, so that's actually counter milling. And corresponding with that, your driver pins here, if I can grab one, are kind of mushroomed on the bottom, and they do, whoops, put that in the wrong spot. They do catch in this milling. It's not so deep that you have to, like float pick it or anything, but these drivers do catch in that milling, so it is effectively matched. So that's the middle section here, and then you can see that there's 2 rows of holes on either side of that, and those correspond with 2 different sets of sliders. So on the right side of the lock, as I had it picked, you've got these kind of wafer sliders here, and those would be inserted into the plug like this. And so you can see there's a little piece of the slider that inserts into the keyway that you have to manipulate. And the interesting thing about these sliders is that they at rest are all the way down like that, and they extend into a hole in the bottom of the housing here. You can see right there. But then there's also holes in the upper side of the housing, so if you overlift these, they will extend up. If I can get one up here, they'll extend up through the top of the plug and also block rotation. So you do have to make sure that those are lifted to the exact height and not just lifted too high, because they will block rotation that way as well. On the left side, there is another set of sliders, and these are probably more traditional types of sliders that interact with a sidebar. If I can grab it here so you can see it. So you can see they have a true gate and a false gate there, and these are unsprung, so they will just sit in this hole here. They can be pushed up through the top of the plug, but I don't know if any of them will actually reach. I don't think any of them are actually long enough. And there's no holes in the housing for them to insert into, so I don't think you can really overlift these, but you do have to manipulate them, there we go, so that the true gate is there in order for the sidebar to correctly fall in. And the sidebar itself is nothing special. It's just a solid piece of metal, no serrating or anything on it, so it just is blocked from falling in if those sliders are not the correct height. And then you can see the groove right there for the sidebar to sit in. So 3 different locking mechanisms, 2 separate types of sliders, and 1 set of top pins. It definitely makes this kind of tricky. The sliders don't give great feedback. You'll see me using a light so that I can see them better. And the other weird thing with this lock is that it didn't bind one side and then the other. It bound back to front. So I had to do some of the sliders on each side and the back alternatively, and then I have to pick the top pins, and I have to set the sliders in the front. These sliders over here on the right hand side, they almost act sort of tapered, I'm assuming because of the shape of them. So as you lift them up, they will stop binding, and then one of the other ones will start binding because of the sloped edges there. So those act a little bit of tapering, and then these ones obviously have the false gates on them, so you have to make sure that you don't get stuck in a false gate there. And then having to pick the mushroom drivers up out of the countermilling, also tricky. So I think that's everything for that. You'll see it up in the vise here. Again, I don't really talk through this. I do use a couple different types of flags in order to pick the sliders. And then I'm also using a flag on the top. I think I at one point may have tried to use a regular pick as well, but it didn't really help out that much. So I think it was mostly flags everywhere on this lock. I think that's it. Oh, one interesting thing about this, so the key is symmetrical. It can be inserted either way. So the bitting for the left and the right side has to necessarily be opposite, right? So you can see it's low down here, and then if you flip it over, that's going to make sure that the sliders on this side are up high. So the sliders have to be basically kind of opposite each other because the key can be inserted either direction. So I thought that was kind of interesting. All right, I think that's it. We'll get to the pick and gut next, and you'll see this thing get opened up. So we can see that this is open, right? Okay, locking it back up. Don't believe I need a shim. Okay, I'm gonna take the top pins out here. I'm gonna put them in 1, 2, 3 right there. That was the anti-drill. Okay, that's one. That's two. That's three. And I'll take the sidebar out. It's gonna go over here. I'll grab the springs for the sidebar. Okay. Let's see if I can do this. Okay, so there's a sidebar slider and a wafer slider. All right, that's all done. So you can see in there, there's the groove for the sidebar, and then there's the holes that the wafers fit in. And then these three are for the top pins. On the plug itself, there's all the holes, sidebar groove, and I believe it's not, this is not counter milling. Yeah, there's some over milling right there. Oh, my springs just fell out of the housing here. So there you can see the mushroom drivers, my wafer sliders, and then the false gated sidebar sliders. And the sidebar is just a solid piece of metal, nothing super interesting on that. There we go. That took a really long time to get down. That is a Kaken KX3.